I have a special place in my heart for Mortal Kombat because I used to play as a child for hours on end, but I haven't touched the franchise in years, which is why I'm a little eager to get into Mortal Kombat 1 to check out more specifically what they're working with from a fashion and style perspective. So let's get into that. Hola, my name is X, and I like to experiment with fashion as well as talk about whatever the hell I want on social media whenever I feel like it. And in this video, I'm really just going to be going over, I'm pretty sure all the characters or fighters within Mortal Kombat 1 and reviewing their outfits. Not every single one in meticulous detail, but most of them, and just generally discussing their style and how it resonates with me and what I think is most interesting about it, which leads me into some criteria. I'm not going to use the typical basic attack, super move, KO rating system for this, just because I don't really feel like there were any KOs. So I just don't find that so conducive to this video. But there is criteria in which I am ranking these loosely from least favorite to most favorite. And that criteria includes how good of a range of style does each of the fighters have? Does it give like enough flex? Are we getting some interesting diversity? And then I'm also going to take into account how modernized their style is. Like, does it build on some of that traditional fighter aesthetic? Are we getting some interesting contemporary looks? Which leads me into a quick note on MK1 style in general. I do love the modern contemporary twist on some of that traditional cultural clothing. I've discussed this many times, but I feel like out of the entire franchise, this installment is really bringing some elevated chic looks, especially just with how there's so many different fabrics, textures, and lots of interesting draping, layering, and dimension involved with these various outfits, which I feel like just puts it in a completely different category and league of its own. And one more thing before we hop into looking at these fighter outfits, I do want to give a shout out to Miriam and Papa Mache. I think it's Papa Mache, not Paper Mache, for their super thanks. I don't want to miss those. MVVs all the way, most valuable viewers, among a few others as well. But just really appreciate the ongoing support. Every little bit goes a long way. You already know in this YouTube game, especially these days. All right, with all of that upfront out of the way, let's hop into reviewing and analyzing these Mortal Kombat 1 fighter outfits and styles. So starting with Omni-Man, Peacemaker, and Conan. I mean, love some kind of off-franchise cameos and insertions within a game. I mean, they're pretty one note just based on their default looks within their respective universes. There are some slight variations available, but it's nothing that's kind of like, whoa. And I'm not even really the most familiar with these characters. I don't even really know how they ended up in here. So then I'm also going to bundle Noob, Saibot, Sector, and Cyrax just because I feel like they are largely working with an overall kind of suit aesthetic that doesn't resonate with me really at all and doesn't flex into anything that's really clothing fashion, style fashion, based on what I typically cover and what I typically celebrate in various character looks. They are a little bit of a step above the first three. All right, now we touch on Takeda, and it's just a suit that we've kind of seen before. But when we get into really the most standout variation with the off-the-shoulder asymmetry kind of look and top, we start to get into some of that interesting layering that I was discussing up front, and just different dimensions and pieces in different ways that give an interesting composition to the outfit, a little slight peak of body confidence. I mean, that's about it though, which is why I'm like definitely towards the bottom. But I definitely have some bias towards Homelander and Ghostface. I didn't put them with the first three because I feel like, number one, I just have an affinity for them as villains. They're really interesting and I feel like they're really iconic. And number two, I feel like their variations do add a little bit more value, like Homelander in an all gold suit. Wow. And then Ghostface in like this purple robe moment with a little bit of like a silvery or shimmery like line pattern that goes down one end. Simple little things that just give their base iconic looks a little something fresh and interesting. All right, now getting into Ermac, I feel like this is definitely a tangible evolution from what I believe is maybe the character's more classic design. And it's really that fringe or kind of tasseled detail that makes this feel a lot more contemporary, but also gives some really great texture and depth to the look as well, just based on all those different individual elements. Lots of intricate detail, still playing within that red realm. But as a result, that's really the strongest as far as the default. There's really no additional interesting flex. I mean, something that's a little bit more sleek and smooth, but it's really the one with the tassel details I think is the most progressive overall. Then we have Baraka. Also feels a little one-dimensional in overall style, but at least there's a few additional variations in look. Obviously appreciate the body confidence even for a weird demon creature guy. There's different plays with the upper body and how the chest is displayed, some symmetry, some asymmetry, some headwear. But overall, I feel like the silhouette is largely the same, and we're really not getting anything too differentiated from look to look, except for maybe some additional horn or armor details. Like the last look has some fur, but nothing that's too extravagant in my opinion. I mean, same thing with Shao Kahn, to be honest. Like, obviously, this is also a really nice modern twist on his classic iron kind of aesthetic, and I do feel like some of this is pretty clean, especially for a character like him, but it all still falls in the same realm of like bulky, hulky, like villain, big baddie guy situation, for lack of a better way to articulate it. Overall, I just feel like similar silhouette, similar structure. Smoke, I feel like, is a great representation for the new default look that a lot of these ninja-esque guys have in all their different shades: Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Reptile, etc. It's clean, it's simple, and I feel like though he kind of stays within that realm a bit more than the other characters. And maybe just based off of like Smoke and needing to maybe be a little bit more illusion and discreet, we can kind of give some benefit of the doubt from like a character design perspective. But I'm not really seeing anything that's too like incredible as far as his overall range. Liu Kang definitely feels a little bit more practical, a little bit more kind of like style and fashion that we would kind of see, and he kind of always has been, so it's not like it's a complete reinvention of his overall design, but nothing that's too like everyday like some of the other characters have as we continue to proceed. There is a look with like a longer trench coat with the hood, which I feel like is maybe the closest proximity to something that you could maybe see on runway. There is this one full-blown jumpsuit that honestly knocked him down a few points because I'm just like, what is this? Then we have Rain, and I wanted to rank this character higher, but I just feel like similar to a little bit more of the barbaric or really menacing type characters that we had earlier in the list, he has a style that's pretty kind of one-dimensional, very similar silhouettes from look to look, even within the variations. I do like that he has a bit more of a hooded type style with a cloak or a cape that feels a little bit more new and interesting, and he does feel a little bit more luxurious between all of the ninja-esque characters. Even with some of the sleeveless looks, it still feels sharp and classy and clean. That feedback kind of spills over into Shang Tsung. Similar to Liu, I feel like he's kind of dressed like this to an extent in the past, with a little bit more evolution, maybe as far as elaborate accessorizing, different structure and composition of the outfit. It's sophisticated, and I feel like it definitely exhibits him as a more kind of high-ranking, takes himself a little bit more assertively type character. But I feel like when you go through the variations, it just all kind of starts to blend together. What put him a little bit higher was this look. That makes him look like a genuine mystical wizard. Typical like RPG mage class character. And those are some of my favorite archetypes. So then we start moving more into some of the female characters, and Sindel was surprisingly underwhelming. He did not exercise more body confidence and overall just like flair and attitude with her outfits. This one is the closest to what I consider her signature core personal style. Love this, which is why she's even placed where she is. But I was a little bummed that there weren't more looks that played with the silhouette, the structure like this. Just give us, honestly, not to try to like always put the female characters in skin, but like give us a little bit more energy and a little bit more than that. Garrus is cool. I mean, obviously a little bit biased towards like a bald black guy character. And I really do like some of the kind of charm elements or implants that are part of his body. It just fills in some void and gives a little bit more of that strong detail and accessorizing. Decent range in how he can go from full like shirtless moment to something that's a little bit more futuristic bodysuit looking. But that's really the most that we get. Something with a little bit of fur detail towards the end and some grandness with a cape as well. And I like the studded details, but it's really just not enough to push forward and be really one of the best dressed. I kind of appreciate Reiko for a similar reason. Lots of variations in body confident looks, and I like the extent to which that feels like a core signature part of his style. Interesting differentiation, one that feels a little bit more tribal with like a skull, one that has a little bit more delicate, clean fabric draped across, and some that are just more harness and leather and hardware oriented. So I kind of appreciate a little bit of that flex. It's not the most, and it does feel largely one-dimensional, but there's still just that peak of body confidence in many different ways, which I feel like shows how you can depict men with some skin showing without having to always be shirtless. Then we have Raiden, and the default look is very underwhelming. I don't feel like there's really much progression there at all, and I was like, and I feel like even across the majority of the other looks, it's really nothing too out of the realm of what we've actually seen him with in the past. This feels like an outfit that is very everyday. I love how the belt ties around the waist on one side of the shirt and the other end of the shirt is just left open for some asymmetry. Such simple styling and accessorizing to make this feel really unique for how plain and basic a lot of the clothing items that he has are. But outside of that, that's the only reason why he's even ranked this high, is because of that one outfit. And honestly, similar situation with Kung Lao. I just feel like a very similar silhouette, structure, and composition to Raiden. And except we're getting just more sleeveless moments, which is nice. And there is this look with a bit more kind of texture and segmentation to the outfit. I really think that the casual outfit is interesting. Still pretty plain, but it's well layered and very accessible for people to actually experiment with and not look entirely out of place if they dress like that on the street. But outside of that, I mean, everything else is pretty one note. Now we have Li Mei, and I appreciate the overall more formal, orderly, takes her position seriously type energy and aura that we're getting from her. And as such, I feel like her outfits are very just like solid, structured, like just feels a little bit more put together and just like clean edges and just shape to it. And I love this look right here. Like this is what was like, okay, girl. And even this last look with like the feathers, and that's a little bit more of like an actual dress or gown. I just feel like she's giving us more range, and that's really key and important to being a strong fashionista, in my opinion. Then we have Havik, and really lots of straps going on, but what really did it for me was the slight flex in contrast. I haven't used that word yet, between the one that has like these big teeth or like bones going on, and it's like a little bit more of like a skirt. But then we move into a look that has a little bit more of that softer, solid fabric that feels a little bit more luxurious and formal, and honestly something that I could really see men wearing on the runway. Just really great fabric draping in a different way that feels a little bit more, I can't even describe it really well. What was a little kind of like for Sub-Zero was, I just feel like his structure and silhouette and things like that still kind of fall within a very linear dimension and kind of realm. Really love this one with more of like the armored pieces. I'm not usually into the armor, but I feel like as far as him with like ice, rigid edges, just kind of like sharp, smooth curves. I feel like that definitely aligns with his style. Then there's the look with the bands on the chest. I would have loved if it was like baggier pants, more of that like fabric draped and just kind of oriented like that. The fact that it's like a tight, like high-waisted pant situation looks so ugly. I was like, they could have done better for him than that. Like, come on. But I mean, yeah, like we're really not getting much range or anything too super progressive for him, which is a bummer. Then we have Ashra, and I feel like she has this certain grace and elegance to her style, something that we will see a bit more in Kitana as well. Just with like the more kind of circular, curved kind of draping of some of those elements that even look like they're hardware. So it's just really interesting and adds a lot of opulence and texture to the look, those ridges. And I love that she has a hat, especially for one of the female characters, easily differentiates her. The Valkyrie kind of look is a nice variation, and I feel like is easily a new genre of aesthetic, which is giving her so many more points. Then we have Nitara, and I am not the most like shook by her default outfits and even some of the immediate variations. I really do appreciate that she has so much more body confidence, and the wings are honestly helping to do a lot to even frame her silhouette and like how the clothing is shaped around her body. But I really love the looks where she's just giving us some great crop situation. Her crop top game is strong, particularly this one. Like, wow. This is what really started her in this realm for me. Kenshi's style is interesting in a way that I would have never expected. And we are getting some interesting range, and I love his form of body confidence. Number one, the base outfit is actually pretty sick. Like, and not the biggest fan of this one, but it feels a little bit more cultural. So we're getting a new genre of look, but it's this one that really did it for me. I was like, the way it frames the six pack, the chest, the hardware, the pattern, the texture, it's just so excellently done. This is kind of interesting too, but the fact that it's like human, like its skin and faces is really disturbing. So I'm like, what is going on there? But overall, just, it's like chic, but also a little bit more relaxed. It just feels effortless. Scorpion, I was surprised that I liked some of his styling over Sub-Zero's, but default wise, we already know what we're working with here with that new evolved ninja default. It was this look right here that did it for me. Like the little peak of the pec goes a long way here. We already know that these male characters got it going on. We already know this. Just give us a little hint of it. We don't need to get it all at once. And I rarely see male characters that are just like so nicely covered, draped fabrics, materials, feeling very opulent, feeling very dressed up, but just a little strategic peek of the skin to let us know what's going on there. I just think that was like so profound to me. I just was like, wow. Not as much of a fan of like his more armored looks compared to Sub-Zero's. I think Sub-Zero's was stronger, but I really like this studded one with the skull and the flame head. That actually feels very signature and throwback to like the OG movie that I remember. Then we have Reptile, and I was also surprised that I kind of liked some of his variations a bit more. I really like that his default look, similar to Rain's, is just a little bit different. It doesn't follow the same structure as a lot of the other guys, and the texture obviously is really key here to really highlight and be true to his name and kind of what he's about, ability-wise and concept-wise. But what really did it for me was the fact that he has a fun, playful holiday look. So much personality and whimsy here, but it was really this kind of casual outfit that did it for me. I'm just like, exactly. Give us that modern, contemporary streetwear fashion. There's great lining to the jacket. It's a typical jacket that I feel like a lot of guys get into, very statement. And the pants look kind of utility jogger-esque. It just feels so perfect. So great range, great evolution, and great extension even into our modern day. But of course, I gotta show love to Johnny Cage. Like, we already know he's Mr. GQ. He always has to give us plenty of personality, plenty of attitude and bravado. Default outfit doesn't really give that. Like, then we get into a button down and slacks. And even though it's so plain, it's just like, exactly. Especially in contrast to what we've been getting from all the other male characters up until this point. Exactly. But really, that strong statement coat that he has with the fur lining and trim, amazing. Like, it feels completely on brand. Even with the chains involved, it still is so interesting and unique and so Johnny Cage. We're even getting an Indiana Jones moment. I mean, he is Mr. Hollywood, so I feel like that's nice to see. But then we're getting like a typical kind of like full-blown karate type look. Even a different expression. Honestly, I love to see it for him. Give us some body. He's already well clothed typically. And then we get into some other variations that are just kind of like, like a soldier look. Like, it just feels very Hollywood set, more as like his alternative themes, which I kind of appreciate as far as the diversity of looks that he can pull off, but not the most like, wow, best dress. Tanya feels a little bit more tribal, Caribbean, African, just in terms of some of the decoration and some of the elements and color. In her variation, love the headdress. Like, immediately putting her into something that's just unlike everybody else. And I really love how the top frames her chest and just how she has those straps that surround her neck. Like, even for an armored look with something a little bit more crowned, I still just feel like the way they frame her chest and frame her torso is just so consistently strong. I don't like, very specific, but that's what really stands out to me. And love that she can immediately lean into a casual moment. I don't know if she's Jamaican. That's why I'm like, I definitely got more of like that island kind of vibe from her. And obviously the colors are leaning into that. And this look just really gives me like Wakanda in the best way possible. So luxurious, so cultural, and just gives a different like font and style to some of the more Asian inspired, I feel like, cultural designs that we've been getting. So really love that she could come through with something in this regard. So Kenshi, I was actually prepared to put lower. His default look is interesting. I feel like it is a little bit differentiated. He's almost giving like a little bit more of a ninja or samurai-esque Johnny Cage in a way. And his varied skin feels like more space Star Wars-esque than like anything else. So that's an interesting kind of flex and range. But it was this look right here that did it for me 100%. The texture of the blazer, the variation between the belts, between some of these looks, like very much men's fashion. Like any guy can just throw this on and like they are rocking with such an interesting look. They would get so many compliments. Like, I want the outfit so badly, to be honest. So great. Everything else is just kind of like, okay, we have a shirtless moment. So it's like, we have some range. Like, we're just getting range. We're getting formal to fighter to just full flesh. And I'm here for it. Mileena, love it. Like I was saying, like with Tanya, just that different type of default look. Love how it fits their bodies and love how it frames their chest. And Melina's definitely got that going on. And she has a lot more of those sharp edges, just to kind of show a little bit more of that bad girl, like kind of menace side that she has to her. But even in this other varied look, it just a lot more Asian inspired and cultural feeling, but plenty of consistent and persistent body confidence. And even with like a straight jacket, like mental patient look, I feel like that's kind of tying on to a little bit of her edge. Not my favorite, but it just is, again, a flex in style. And when I was seeing these, even this one just feels like it's just another change, but I feel like it stands out and I feel like it just really pops. And I was looking at these, I was hoping we can get something a little bit more like casual, and we do. We get a full cute short crop jacket and top situation. Like, this is what I was like, of course, like, you better go there, girl, and like you better do her right with that. And they absolutely did. Sporty, fun, confident, so into it. I love this one. Not sure why like these character captures has the terrible hairstyle with it, but Again, like this is still a flex in style, very body confident, crop, but armored elements involved. This is the other one that did it for me. I was like, we already know. I was like, could we at least get a little bit more sexy? Showing us a little bit of the underboob both ways, like similar to Scorpion, thank you. But the sleeves feel long and graceful and like a nice contrast to all the sexy. I really appreciate that. And then this final look that just looks so regal and so high status. Such a flex in range. She's honestly truly a fashionista. And with all that gushing on Mileena, it was tough not to just put her as the top spot, but I had to give it to Kitana. Kitana and Mileena were always like my two favorites, but I always played Kitana any chance I got. Loved her in Sub-Zero. I just feel like she has still some body confidence and shows some little skin here and there, but she's just so much more classy with it. She has a sleek, smoother silhouette. Her elements, similar to Ashra, I believe it was, just has more of that roundedness and more of that grace and elegance. We can even see that in her default, and even in the immediate variation, it just feels more sleek and smooth and curved and just tight and put together like that. And even with this one, with like the bun, like again, we're just getting rounded shapes that I just feel like gives her like edge, fighter ready, fighter fit, just with a little bit more femininity and flair to it. I don't know, and finesse, maybe that's finesse is the word I'm looking for. Even this one's not my favorite, but I just like how each look feels differentiated. Like it feels new. It doesn't feel like the guys where it's just all kind of blending together. And then similar to Reptile, she has like a holiday moment, something that's a little more fun and whimsical, something that Mileena didn't have. And I just feel like that just love it. Crop jacket, tall, cute heeled boots, the fur texture, absolutely, absolutely. But then she's also still giving us a plenty sporty moment with great cleavage, unlike underboob, but like it still's really cute. Like she can go there. She can be a little more relaxed, very everyday. Like it's just so great. And then she also has like an armored look that looks very similar to Mileena. So, I mean, that's not really very new, but even then it's a little more covered up than hers was. I just love her style. All right, that's what I got for you as far as Mortal Kombat 1. Really hope that they can build upon the innovative contemporary styles that they were dabbling in. But until the next video, I'll talk to you later.